Hi, everyone. Gonna wait for a few more people to jump in. All right. Well, I will go ahead and get started. First, to kind of introduce myself, my name is Danielle, and I am part of the training and support team here at Hawks Learning. I want to first thank you guys for taking the time to meet with me today and learn a little bit more about our advanced gradebook features. Whether you have been part of the Hawks family for a while or are a newer member, welcome. And hopefully my goal is that you will leave this webinar today with at least one new trick that you'll be able to implement in your upcoming Hawks courses. If you have any questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A box at the very bottom of the screen. You should see that little icon. And at the end of our webinar, I will look at that over and be sure to address any questions that we have throughout. We will be recording this webinar today and then sending it out via email when we are done. That way you have it, and it will also be posted over to our blog as well. Feel free to reach out to your school's designated training and support representative if you have any follow-up questions as well, and they would be happy to help at the very end. So I'm going to go ahead and outline our time together. I'm going to stop sharing so that way you can focus on the gradebook that we have over here. Again, to outline our time together, I am going to be going over the custom tab, the grading rules that we have, the visible on feature within the lesson due dates, diagnostic testing, customizing students' to-do list, a few of our unique curriculum settings, and the very basics of Question Builder. So similar to our initial gradebook trainings, I will go from right to left. We'll go ahead and jump in by looking under the Tools tab. We can select it, and Display Options. Again, we have tons of different custom options that you can choose from. We will come down here and you will notice this Custom tab. This Custom tab will allow you to add a tab link to the student side if you want to link a certain website or a resource, so that way students have that easy access on their side. I will jump over to our student side really quick. You may be familiar with the student dashboard. Typically, they only have the to-do list, lessons, and web test tab. Here, because I've added our Hawks TV link, once the student sees this tab, they can and then jump right away into those instructional videos. This is great for any resource that you really just want at your students' fingertips. Moving over into our grade settings tab, we're going to look under the assignment groups. First, you will notice this grading rule column. Under that, you will have the drop-down menu where you can select to keep all of the lessons or assignments within that group, keep the highest, or drop the lowest. Here, I would recommend just doing this at the end of the semester so as not to inflate a student's grade. Next, we're going to move over into the Assignments tab. Here's where I would say we have most of our advanced gradebook features, and this is where you've already created your course. You have now said what your rules for that course are going to be, and now we're really going to put all of those assignments into play. So the first thing we're going to look at is under the lesson due dates. We will click into that section, and typically, this is where you would go through and assign your dates. As soon as you assign those dates, they appear on the student's to-do list. However, we do have under the Show Additional Options button, this Visible On column. This is where you have the ability to determine when you would like an assignment to appear on your student's to-do list. So most instructors will typically use this feature if they do not want some students or any of the students going in and working too far ahead of the overall pace that they've set for the course. Next, we're going to go back to the Assignments tab and into our Web Test tab. This has been probably one of our most frequently asked questions through this whole pandemic, testing security, how can I really help my students best? And so diagnostic testing is a way to track students' performance on a per topic basis within the exam. So I can select on a test name that I've already created. I would look over to my right and select the additional settings option. From here, you'll have our additional settings appear. And second to last, you'll notice this diagnostic test radio button. Select that checkbox, and then a proficiency level will appear. This is where you can select that percentage that you want students to hit. So if a student reaches this designated proficiency level for any specific topic on the exam, they are placed out of having to complete that corresponding certified homework lesson. So this option will really create that customized learning path so that each student can accelerate through the course content more quickly, depending on their foundational understanding of their material. Moving down, back to assignments again and into the student to-do list. So many of you may already be familiar that students will have the due today, due tomorrow, and due later to-do list on their student dashboard. By default, we do have that organized by due date. However, you can come in and actually customize the assignments to be presented in any order for the students by creating headers. So first, you would go ahead and select your section. And here you'll notice that I have mine set up by modules. So you could do by modules, by weeks. We've even seen some instructors do it by lessons, tests, and you can move them around however you'd like. That way it's easiest for your students. You can select multiple at a time to move to whichever group you've created, or you can drag and drop them as well. Once you're done, they will automatically save, and then you can lock that to-do list order for your students. This basically will just create a more structured path for your students to follow as they progress throughout the course. Next, we're going to go back to assignments and then jump over into curriculum. Here we do have several different custom curriculum options. Today, I am just going to point out two that I feel are more helpful on an individual basis for the students. So this first one is Flex Mastery. This will allow you to give additional attempts per strike or life in the certify mode. So this setting will allow you to account for those answer entry mistakes or any of those silly errors that students sometimes make when completing an assignment. If you do select to use Flex Mastery, we recommend limiting this to about 1 or 2 additional attempts per question. Next, and a newer feature that we have is the last setting, which is adaptive practice sessions. This feature will adjust the questions that students receive in practice based on their performance. Essentially, it prioritizes seeing all objectives in the first half of practice, initially presenting the low difficulty level questions. Moving forward, it adapts the practice, hence adaptive practice session, based on how students perform on each objective and by the level of complexity of questions. So students are then presented with subsequent questions targeting those areas where they need the most help. I know that was a lot of information, but if you have any questions with those two, please make sure to ask your designated TSR and they can help. Lastly, I do want to jump over into our question builder tool. This will just allow for further customization of content where you can actually go in and create your very own questions to assign to your students. So first, you will notice that it opens up in a complete separate tab. You will create a folder that you want that question to be placed, and then you can click to create your very own questions. The first thing you're going to notice is the top, you have all of your different options. We do recommend using the expression builder tool when creating your questions, just so that your questions are accessible and ADA compliant. You can choose the type of answer that you want your students to have, so multiple choice, free response, open-ended, and so on. You then can assign percentage of credit per question. So we get this question a lot from instructors. What does that mean? Sometimes an instructor may want to go in and give 25 or 50% credit to a unsimplified answer, whereas they would give 100% for the complete correct answer. You then also have the option to add tutor features, so you can create your very own explain error, you can add hints, anything like that. Once you're done, save your question, and then you can, whenever you're creating your web test, go in and actually choose your own specific questions that you created. So that is pretty much the basis of some of our more advanced gradebook features. I do want to go ahead and open the floor for any questions that you all may have. Let me go ahead and look at our Q&A box. We do have one question, and it is, how would diagnostic work? Does it affect learn and homework in a section, or is it in section by section? So the best way to answer this is going to say the diagnostic feature is more so to test where the foundational knowledge is for that student. So if you select you go ahead and create an exam. Maybe it covers, you're going over chapter 1 and you've assigned 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. Depending on how the student answers each question from those specific lessons, say they have gotten all the questions correct from lesson 1.4, then in practice and certify, the students wouldn't actually have to go in and complete that lesson. They would be exempt from taking that. Now they could still go in and do so, but they wouldn't have to because they had met that proficiency level that you had set. Francine, yes, so Francine asked, so is the diagnostic like a pretest? It can be like a pretest. You can go in and create your own pretest as well, but it's basically just to see where the student's foundational level is. And then if they pass that test as diagnostic, they don't have to go in and take the actual lesson mode, so the practice and the certified portion. Hopefully that will help a little bit on the diagnostic testing. All right, do we have any more questions? Yeah, so I see one question that popped up and it said, how can you change settings from previous semesters to new semesters or new sections, I'm assuming, is what is being asked. So if you want to do that, you would just go to Tools and Manage Sections. And then you would go ahead and just select, I'll just click into one, for example. Again, this is just a training gradebook. So over to the right, this gray box, you will see your current section settings. You can copy settings from another section or apply settings to multiple sections. So say, for example, I just finished a spring section and I'm setting up for my fall semester. I can select that I want to use my fall 2019 section. It's going to give me this message that says, hey, these are the basic settings that are going to be copied over, meeting times, start and end dates, things like this. You can either say, yes, that's what I want, or no, that's not what I want. And then it will go ahead and copy over it could be a custom to-do list. These are everything that will be copied over. So if you're familiar with our gradebook, you'll notice that most of the gradebook works on a template kind of mode. So if I went ahead and copied that over and I saved my changes, when I go back into, we'll just do assignments and curriculum, then from here, I have that drop down where I can select which curriculum that would have already been copied over. If I didn't want that curriculum, I could choose then more specifically. One of my favorite features with this is the assignments and then lesson due dates. So if you're planning on using the same pacing guide that you used from a previous section, instead of having to go in and individually assign all of these new due dates one by one, you actually can just shift multiple due dates. So it's going to say, put that date of the very first lesson that you already have. So in this case, I would do, looks like 1/03/2018. And then I would do the new date. So maybe it's going to be in August for a fall semester and go. And then it will shift all of those due dates to your new semester. All right. Well, hopefully that has helped you guys a lot. Again, it has been recorded, and we are going to email this out as soon as we are finished and it's uploaded. And we'll also add it to our blog. So if you want to reference it for anything at all, please feel free to do so. Reach out to your designated TSR for any other questions. And, hold on a second. It looks like I actually have one chat feature as well. Let me open that up for you guys. Okay, yeah. So it seems like the diagnostic is the most questions that we're getting. I will just walk through that one more time. It looks like that is what we're being requested to do. So diagnostic testing, assignments, and then web test. Before selecting or even the idea of a diagnostic test, you would have to go in and create a test. So again, say I've already created this one because it's a training grade book. The name is Save. I can just select the test name and then go over to our additional settings. That is how you would assign and select for a diagnostic test. It is the second to last down here. So you would select this checkbox to say, yes, I want this test to be set up as a diagnostic test. You then have a proficiency percentage that you can go in and customize. So normally we have our lessons and assignments set to an 80% proficiency or mastery is how we call it based level. Here, I've just entered that same percentage in as well. I think it's a pretty good indicator of where a student may stand. Once I've done that, I then can go in and just save my changes. And now when a student goes in to take this test, depending on what chapters and lessons you've selected to be put on this test, our system is able to sort of go in and diagnose, okay, the student did really well with questions, or at least hit that 80% proficiency level of lesson 1.4. So now when a student goes into their to-do list, they will no longer be required to do whatever lesson they hit that proficiency level on. It more so functions as a way to sort of see where the student is with that material. And then they can either skip, and it helps them get through the course a little quicker. Something that I would think would maybe be used more so for those shorter semesters, summer, anything where you want the students to sort of work on their own pace. All right. Well, I think we have answered all of the questions, it looks like. Again, please feel free to reach out if you have any more questions with this. And I just want to thank you all again for attending this webinar. I hope that it was helpful, and I hope that you have a great day and a great rest of your week. Thank you. Bye.